The Philippines wasn't even on my radar. I didn't plan for it, didn't research it, and honestly, I never gave it a single thought. My trip was supposed to be all about Japan, the place I'd dreamed about since I was a teenager. I had already booked everything in Thailand to soak up the beaches, and Bali was supposed to be the perfect ending. I had it all mapped out, where I'd stay, what I'd see, what I'd photograph, what I'd share. Then, out of nowhere, I saw this insanely cheap last-minute ticket to Manila. I paused. It wasn't part of the plan, but something made me think, why not? A few days there, just to rest, try something new, then I'd be off to the real trip. I had no idea that this unplanned stop would end up flipping everything I thought I knew about travel, and maybe even about myself. When I landed in Manila, nothing looked or felt like the Asia I had imagined. I had always pictured Asia as clean bullet trains, quiet temples, calm streets where people mostly kept to themselves. That's what I found in places like Tokyo and Seoul, organized, calm, precise, beautiful in a very controlled way. But Manila? The moment I stepped out, I was hit with heat, noise, traffic, voices, laughter, movement, life happening in every direction, all at once. It was wild and loud and messy. At first, I honestly wondered if I'd made a mistake coming. I felt lost, out of place, overwhelmed. But then something started to shift. People looked me right in the eyes and smiled. Not the polite tourist smile, but like they actually saw me. Like I belonged there, somehow. A woman at a street food stall called me something I didn't understand, but it sounded kind. Later, I found out it meant older sister, a word said with affection. A man chased me down the street just to return a coin I'd dropped, like it truly mattered. A jeepney driver refused to take my money, simply saying, "You're a guest here." Not once did I feel like I was just another tourist passing through. I felt like a person who mattered. That quick, impulsive detour turned out to be the heart of my whole trip, the part I never planned for and the part I'll never forget. I wasn't treated like a tourist here, not even like a stranger just passing through. People treated me like a friend, some even like family. And honestly, I had never felt that in any of the other places I'd visited before. I remember one evening, just sitting quietly outside a small sari-sari store. One of those little shops you might miss unless you're really paying attention. The sun was setting, casting everything in a warm golden light. Kids were laughing and playing in the street, and everything felt calm, almost like time had slowed down. Then a family I didn't know at all waved me over. No words, just kind smiles and hand gestures, as if saying, "Come sit with us." And so I did. We didn't speak the same language, but somehow we still understood each other. We shared food, laughed at each other's funny attempts to communicate, and made a memory that felt more honest and real than any fancy tour I'd ever been on. Plastic chairs, uneven ground, rice passed around by hand. And yet, it meant more to me than any big sight or five-star experience. In that moment, I wasn't thinking about my next stop. I wasn't rushing anywhere. I just sat there, thinking about how strange it was that I suddenly felt like I belonged somewhere I barely knew. Days passed, and I stopped keeping track of how long I'd been in the Philippines. I didn't care about checking off landmarks or chasing after popular spots. Instead, I found happiness in the smallest, simplest things. Like someone remembering my name, even if we'd only spoken once. As if it really mattered to them. A woman handed me snacks for free just because I had smiled at her the day before. I helped a fisherman carry his tangled net for maybe 10 seconds, and he thanked me like I'd done something huge. Every person I met left behind something invisible but heavy, something I carried with me even after I walked away. It made me wonder, why don't more people talk about the Philippines like this? Everyone goes on about beaches and waterfalls and bucket list adventures. But what stuck with me weren't those postcard moments. It was the man who quietly handed me an umbrella in the middle of a downpour on a street I couldn't even name. It was the little kid who gave me a folded drawing with a proud smile, like he was handing over treasure. It was the old woman who softly placed her hand on my back and said, "God bless you," in a voice that made me pause. None of that was in a travel guide. None of it was part of my plan. But those were the moments that stayed with me. None of these moments were part of a plan. They weren't listed on any itinerary, but they were real, and they were mine. And honestly, they meant more than anything I thought I came here to find. What I saw in the Philippines wasn't just kindness. It was the kind of care that didn't need a reason. People looked out for each other simply because it felt right. Neighbors shared what little they had, offering food, time, or help without hesitation. Like giving was just a natural part of life. Strangers helped one another with quiet generosity, not for applause, not for show, just because that's the way things are supposed to be. It wasn't perfect here, far from it. But there was something undeniably beautiful in how people lived, together honestly, openly. They smiled even when things were hard. They laughed through struggles with this deep, from-the-heart joy that didn't need a punchline. There was something here I couldn't quite explain. It didn't shine like a tourist spot or a famous monument, but it glowed. It was in the people, in their warmth, in the way they noticed you, in the way they made you feel seen. The Philippines slowed me down in a way I hadn't felt in years. I stopped checking my phone every few minutes. I stopped stressing over where I had to be or what I was supposed to see. Instead, I started noticing what was right in front of me. Small, quiet things I would have missed before. I made eye contact with strangers, and they smiled just because. I listened more, even when I didn't understand the words. I felt something I hadn't let myself feel in a long time. Peace. A kind of presence I'd forgotten. Like I was finally here, not just visiting, but being. I wasn't rushing anymore. I wasn't trying to collect memories like souvenirs or chasing meaning from one landmark to the next. I just wanted to be in this moment, right here, with the sound of traffic, the smell of grilled food, the laughter of strangers, and the kind of warmth you can't fake. Something inside me started to shift. Without even noticing, I was becoming part of the place. The man at the carinderia asked if I'd be back tomorrow, like I was already a regular. A little boy waited outside every afternoon to wave at me like it was the best part of his day. Even the scruffy street dog near my guest house started following me around, block after block, then sitting quietly by my side like we'd known each other for years. At some point, it stopped feeling like I was just visiting. It started to feel like I was being quietly welcomed, gently adopted by a country that asked for nothing in return. And the strange thing was, how natural it all felt. Like this sense of belonging had been waiting for me the whole time. I never planned to stay long in the Philippines. Honestly, it wasn't even on my original list. It was supposed to be a short stop, a quick visit before heading to my next destination. But then strangers treated me like family. Smiles came easily, small talks turned into friendships, and one day turned into another, then another. I wasn't staying for the beaches. I wasn't chasing sunsets. I was chasing a feeling I didn't even know I had been missing. Those first few connections turned into something deeper. It started to feel like home in a place I never expected. Not because I was leaving behind cities or landmarks, but because I was leaving behind pieces of myself. Moments that changed me. People who stayed in my heart, even long after I walked away. And somehow I stayed. And then stayed again. Not because of the scenery, though yes, it was stunning. You might come here for the islands, the food, the photos. But what you'll take with you is something different, something deeper, a feeling of being seen, of being welcomed, of being cared for in a way that asks nothing from you. The Philippines wasn't part of my plan, but it's the one place that truly felt like home. When I finally had to leave, I didn't cry just because the trip was ending. I cried because I was saying goodbye to a version of myself, a version that felt freer, more open, more alive than I'd felt in a long time. This place gave me faces I still picture when I close my eyes, voices I still hear in the quiet, laughter that still echoes in my chest, and warmth, not from the sun, but from the people. Warmth that came from late-night dinners, from kids waving in the streets, from strangers who became friends in a matter of minutes. Yes, there were adventures. But that's not why I stayed. I stayed because of the people, because they made me feel something rare, seen, welcomed, cared for. Every time I thought about leaving, something pulled me back. A shared meal, a small invitation, a moment of silence that made me feel understood. And each goodbye became harder than the last. When I finally boarded the plane, I didn't cry because I was leaving the Philippines. I cried because I was leaving home. Now, when someone asks, "What was your favorite place in Asia?" I pause, because it didn't give me souvenirs, it gave me stories.